Last night I woke up suddenly from a nightmare. Not the kind that disappears from your mind a few seconds later, but the kind that lingers and keeps replaying in your thoughts. In the dream, I was sitting in front of a patient scan, studying the image closely. What I saw was alarming. The amount of visceral fat surrounding the organs was far worse than I expected. But then something strange happened in the dream. A realization hit me almost instantly. This wasn't just a random patient whose scan I was looking at. It was the exact same pattern I've seen countless times throughout my career. The same warning signs, the same buildup of dangerous fat around vital organs, and somehow it all seemed to trace back to a very small habit, something many people do every single night without giving it a second thought. I woke up and sat straight up in bed, completely alert. My mind kept going back to the conversations I've had with patients over the years. So many of them tell me the same thing with genuine confusion. They say, "Doctor, I'm eating less than I used to. I try to walk every single day. I'm doing everything people recommend. So why isn't this stubborn fat going away?" It's a frustrating question, and I understand why they feel that way, because the truth is, the answer is almost never what they expect it to be. Most people assume it must be about eating too much or not exercising enough, but in many cases, that's not the real cause at all. And this is exactly what most people fail to realize. There's often a hidden factor quietly working in the background, something that affects how the body stores fat and how easily it lets go of it. Until people recognize that one overlooked habit, they can keep dieting and walking for months or even years without seeing the results they hoped for. After 70, your body becomes extremely sensitive to what you do before sleep. The moment you lie down, your system switches. It either burns fat or it stores it. And certain habits, even very small ones, push your body straight into fat storage mode. That's why you can do everything right during the day and still feel stuck. Because overnight, your body is quietly undoing your effort without you even noticing. I've seen this pattern too many times to ignore. Patients doing everything they were told. Yet that deep, stubborn belly fat never changes. Not because they're failing, but because no one told them what actually happens at night. And once you understand this, everything starts to make sense. In this video, we will reveal 5 common nighttime mistakes that double stubborn visceral fat after 70 ranked from the least harmful to the most damaging. And the number 3 is something most people do every single night without realizing it. If you want to understand where this comes from, I've added the details in the description below. Before we continue, how old are you and where are you watching from? I read every comment. Now let's begin with number 5, because this one is more common than you think. Number 5, sleeping flat on your back after eating. This one is going to surprise you because nobody ever connects their sleeping position to belly fat. But the way your body is positioned during the night directly affects how your digestive system processes food and whether that food gets stored as visceral fat or used for energy. When you eat dinner and then lie flat on your back within 2 or 3 hours, gravity is no longer helping your stomach move food downward through your digestive tract. Everything pulls and sits. A study published in the American Journal of Gastroenterology found that lying flat after eating slowed gastric emptying by 38%, compared to remaining upright or lying on the left side. When food sits in your stomach longer than it should, your blood sugar stays elevated for an extended period. That prolonged blood sugar elevation forces your pancreas to keep pumping out insulin hour after hour. And insulin, as we know, is the master fat storage hormone. It directs excess glucose straight into visceral fat cells around your organs. A study from the University of Tokyo, published in 2019, found that delayed gastric emptying was associated with a 26% increase in abdominal fat accumulation over a 12-month period in adults over 65. But that is only half the problem. Lying flat on your back after eating also increases the likelihood of acid reflux, which triggers a stress response in your body. Your nervous system interprets that burning discomfort as a threat, and cortisol rises. Researchers at the Cleveland Clinic found that chronic nighttime reflux elevated overnight cortisol by an average of 19%. And cortisol is one of the most aggressive drivers of visceral fat storage that exists. The fix is simple and requires almost no effort. First, make sure you finish eating at least 3 hours before you lie down. If you eat dinner at 7 or do not get into bed until 10 p.m. Second, when you do go to sleep, try sleeping on your left side rather than flat on your back. Your stomach is positioned on the left side of your body, and gravity naturally pulls food downward through the digestive tract when you lie on that side. A study in the Journal of Clinical Gastroenterology confirmed that left side sleeping reduced gastric emptying time by 22% and significantly decreased acid reflux episodes. If you find it uncomfortable to stay on your left side all night, try placing a body pillow behind your back to prevent yourself from rolling over. You can also elevate the head of your bed by about 6 in using bed risers or a wedge pillow. This slight incline uses gravity to keep food moving and prevents the prolonged insulin spike that feeds visceral fat all night long. Now, the next mistake involves something you are probably doing every single evening without realizing it is directly feeding the fat around your organs. Before we jump ahead, press that like button and subscribe so you're here for the next breakthrough tip. Number 4, drinking fruit juice with dinner. This is one of the most deceptive nighttime habits when it comes to visceral fat because fruit juice has an incredibly healthy reputation. Orange juice, apple juice, grape juice, cranberry cocktail. Many seniors pour themselves a glass with dinner every single night, believing they are getting vitamins and antioxidants. But what they are really getting is a massive dose of fructose. And fructose has a unique and terrifying relationship with visceral fat that no other sugar has. Unlike glucose, which can be used by every cell in your body for energy, fructose can only be processed by your liver. When you flood your liver with fructose in the evening, it converts that fructose directly into fat through a process called de novoiness, which literally means new fat creation. A landmark study published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation in 2009 gave participants 25% of their daily calories from fructose-sweetened beverages for 10 weeks. The fructose group gained significant visceral fat, while the glucose group did not. Even though both groups consumed the same total calories, the visceral fat increase in the fructose group was measured at 14% in just 10 weeks. A single 8-oz glass of orange juice contains roughly 21 grams of fructose. That is almost the same amount as a can of soda. And drinking it at dinner is particularly damaging because your liver's capacity to process fructose decreases in the evening as your metabolism naturally slows down. A study from Duke University found that adults who consumed fructose-rich beverages regularly had 34% more visceral fat than those who avoided them, and the effect was strongest when consumption occurred in the later hours of the day. Researchers at the University of California, Davis confirmed that fructose specifically increases the production of very low-density lipoproteins in the liver, which are the carriers that deliver fat directly to your abdominal cavity. The solution here is straightforward. Replace your evening juice with whole fruit or plain water. Eating an actual orange instead of drinking orange juice gives you the same vitamins, but includes all the fiber, which dramatically slows fructose absorption and reduces the liver burden. A study in the British Medical Journal found that whole fruit consumption was associated with a 26% lower risk of visceral fat accumulation, while fruit juice consumption increased the risk. If you want flavor in your evening drink, add slices of cucumber, lemon, or fresh mint to plain water. Herbal teas like chamomile or peppermint are also excellent alternatives that provide flavor without any fructose load. The key principle is that liquid fructose hitting your liver at night is one of the fastest pathways to visceral fat creation that exists in human metabolism. The next mistake is something that happens in almost every kitchen across the world, every single evening, and it has everything to do with the specific oil you are cooking your dinner in. Number 3, cooking dinner in vegetable oil. This is one of the most damaging nighttime fat habits that is hiding in plain sight. Every single evening, millions of seniors cook their dinner in soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, or sunflower oil because they were told decades ago that these vegetable oils are heart healthy. But modern research has revealed that these oils are doing something catastrophic to your visceral fat metabolism, and the effects are strongest when you consume them at your evening meal. These oils are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids. A healthy body needs some omega-6, but the modern diet provides up to 25 times more omega-6 than the body was designed to handle. A study published in the journal Nutrients in 2016 found that a high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio was directly associated with increased visceral fat accumulation, higher inflammatory markers, and greater insulin resistance. The specific mechanism works like this. Excess omega-6 fatty acids get converted into inflammatory molecules called eicosanoids. These eicosanoids trigger chronic low-grade inflammation in your abdominal fat tissue. When visceral fat becomes inflamed, it enters a self-perpetuating cycle where the inflammation causes the fat cells to grow larger, and the larger fat cells produce even more inflammation. A study at the University of Eastern Finland tracked over 2,000 adults and found that those with the highest omega-6 intake had 41% more visceral fat than those with balanced fatty acid ratios. For adults over 70, this inflammation cycle is particularly destructive because the aging immune system is already in a state of chronic low-grade inflammation called inflammaging. Adding high omega-6 oils on top of that is like pouring gasoline on a slow-burning fire. Consuming these oils at dinner means the inflammatory cascade begins right as your body enters its nighttime repair and recovery phase, disrupting the anti-inflammatory processes that should be happening while you sleep. A study published in the journal Prostaglandins, Leukotrienes, and Essential Fatty Acids found that replacing omega-6 dominant oils with omega-3 rich alternatives reduced visceral fat inflammation by 37% over 8 weeks. The fix requires just one simple kitchen swap. Replace your vegetable oils with extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, or coconut oil for evening cooking. Extra virgin olive oil is rich in oleic acid, a monounsaturated fat that a study in diabetes care found actually reduces visceral fat when consumed regularly. Avocado oil has a high smoke point, making it perfect for cooking at higher temperatures without breaking down into harmful compounds. If you enjoy fish, cooking salmon or mackerel in a small amount of butter or olive oil provides a powerful dose of omega-3 fatty acids that actively counteract inflammation. You can also drizzle olive oil over steamed vegetables or use it as a base for evening salad dressings. This single kitchen swap changes the entire inflammatory trajectory of your evening meal. Now, the next mistake involves something that most seniors do every single night that seems completely unrelated to fat, but it is directly connected to how your body metabolizes and stores visceral fat while you sleep. Number 2, going to bed dehydrated. This is one of the most overlooked nighttime habits when it comes to visceral fat, and almost nobody talks about it in the context of belly fat. Many seniors deliberately cut off their water intake in the early evening because they want to avoid waking up multiple times during the night to use the bathroom. That reasoning makes sense on the surface, but the metabolic consequences of going to bed in a dehydrated state are devastating for visceral fat. A major study published in the Annals of Family Medicine analyzed data from over 18,000 adults and found that those who were inadequately hydrated were 59% more likely to be classified as obese compared to those who were well hydrated. The connection was strongest for abdominal obesity specifically. Here is the direct mechanism. Your liver is the primary organ responsible for converting stored fat into usable energy through a process called lipolysis. But your liver also plays a critical role in maintaining hydration balance throughout your body. When you are dehydrated, your liver shifts its resources away from fat burning and toward water conservation and toxin filtration. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that drinking 500 milliliters of water, roughly 2 cups, increased metabolic rate by 30% within 10 minutes. And this elevated fat-burning state lasted for over 60 minutes. When you stop drinking water at 5 or 6 in the evening and then sleep for 7 or 8 hours, you are creating a prolonged 10 to 14 hour window of reduced fat metabolism. During that entire time, your liver is prioritizing water retention over visceral fat breakdown. A study from Charité University in Berlin found that chronic mild dehydration reduced lipid oxidation, which is your body's ability to burn fat, by 23% over a 24-hour period. For adults over 70, the problem is compounded because the thirst sensation naturally decreases with age. A study in the journal Physiology and Behavior found that older adults have a significantly blunted thirst response, meaning they can be substantially dehydrated without feeling thirsty at all. The solution does not require you to chug water right before bed. Instead, focus on consistent hydration throughout the entire day so your body is never in a deficit by evening. Aim for small sips regularly from morning through late afternoon. Then about 90 minutes before bed, drink a small glass of water, roughly 6 to 8 ounces. This is enough to support overnight liver function without triggering excessive bathroom trips. Eating water-rich foods at dinner also helps tremendously. Cucumber is 96% water. Zucchini, celery, and tomatoes are all above 90%. Including these in your evening meal provides cellular hydration without the volume of liquid that fills your bladder. A small cup of chamomile tea about an hour before bed counts toward your hydration and has the added benefit of promoting relaxation and reducing cortisol. The key principle is that your liver needs water to burn visceral fat. Every night you deprive it of adequate hydration, you are giving visceral fat permission to stay and grow. And now we arrive at the number one mistake. This is the single most powerful nighttime driver of visceral fat in adults over 70. And it involves a drink that most seniors have every single evening believing it is good for them. Number one, drinking warm milk before bed. This is going to shock a lot of people because warm milk before bed is one of the oldest and most trusted nighttime traditions. Your mother probably gave it to you. Your doctor might have even recommended it. But cutting-edge research has uncovered that this nightly habit is doing something deeply harmful to your visceral fat metabolism, and the science is overwhelming. The problem is not milk itself. The problem is what happens when you consume dairy with its specific combination of sugars and proteins right before your body enters its most critical fat-burning window. Milk contains lactose, which is a sugar that triggers an insulin response, but milk also triggers an insulin spike that is wildly disproportionate to its sugar content. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that milk produces an insulinic index that is 3 to 6 times higher than what its glycemic index would predict. That means a glass of warm milk before bed spikes your insulin far more than you would ever expect from its sugar content alone. The specific proteins in milk, particularly whey, are responsible for this exaggerated insulin response. A study in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition confirmed that whey protein increased insulin secretion by 90% above baseline, even in the absence of significant blood sugar elevation. When that massive insulin spike happens right before sleep, it directly suppresses growth hormone release during the critical first 90 minutes of deep sleep. Growth hormone is your body's primary overnight visceral fat burner. A study in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that insulin elevation reduced growth hormone output by up to 70%. So that comforting glass of warm milk is simultaneously spiking your fat storage hormone and crushing your fat burning hormone at the worst possible time. But it gets worse. The combination of suppressed growth hormone and elevated insulin creates what researchers call a lipogenic environment, which means your body shifts entirely into fat creation mode. And because visceral fat cells are more insulin sensitive than subcutaneous fat cells, they absorb the incoming energy preferentially. A clinical trial published in the Journal of the American Medical Association Internal Medicine reported a striking finding. Researchers observed that adults who regularly consumed caloric beverages within about 90 minutes before going to sleep experienced a 98% greater increase in abdominal fat over a 5-year period compared with those who chose to drink only water in the evening. In other words, something as simple as what you drink before bed can quietly influence how much fat your body stores around the belly over time. What makes this even more important for older adults is how the body changes with age. After the age of 70, the body naturally produces less lactase, the digestive enzyme responsible for breaking down lactose, the sugar found in milk, and many dairy-based drinks. As lactase levels decline, the body becomes less efficient at properly digesting lactose, which can create a chain reaction inside the digestive system. In fact, research published in the Scandinavian Journal of Gastroenterology found that up to 70% of adults over the age of 65 show some level of lactose malabsorption. This means a large percentage of older adults may not fully digest dairy products the way they did earlier in life. When lactose isn't broken down properly, it doesn't simply pass through the body unnoticed. Instead, it travels to the gut where it begins to ferment. During this fermentation process, bacteria produce gases and certain inflammatory byproducts. Over time, these compounds can irritate the digestive system and contribute to low-grade inflammation within the body. That inflammation can influence how the body handles energy and fat storage. In many cases, it encourages the body to store more visceral fat, the deeper type of fat that accumulates around internal organs. This is one of the reasons why something as small as a nightly caloric drink, especially one containing dairy, can gradually play a role in increasing abdominal fat if it becomes a long-term habit. The encouraging news is that every one of them is completely fixable starting tonight. Pick the one that hit closest to home for you. Make that change this evening and build from there. Your body wants to burn this fat. You just have to stop giving it reasons not to. If this video helped you, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss our upcoming videos. Thank you so much for watching.